Is that a breakup?
I think we have a situation right here.
On the Feeling Station.
Hello.
Hey, what's happening? How you doing?
Hey. Good. How are you?
I've been excited about this. I'm like, yeah, I gotta make that call, and bang, here it is.
And now we're here.
So, you are on the lockdown edition of the Feeling Station, so please do not say your name.
Okay.
All right, that is really important because I have to keep you anonymous and I have to keep the name of the person that you're going to talk about anonymous. That's just how we do things here.
Perfect. That works perfect.
So I've been browsing the internet and I picked out an African name to call you by, and your African name is from Malawi.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
It's from Malawi and it's Chikondi, and Chikondi means love. How cool is that?
Chikondi.
Yep.
Oh, that is cool. That's very cool.
Now, you needed some time to think about the name you're going to give the guy you're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
So what have you come up with?
That's tough, but I think I will go with Carl.
Carl?
I hope I remember that. Yeah, but I'll go with Carl.
I think I've only had about 2 episodes where people slip up, but even if they do slip up, I'm able to cover it up, so we're good to go.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
So for those who are listening to the podcast for the first time, the podcast touches on breakup stories that people would like to talk about with a view to give lessons that they learned from their experience. Some of the episodes have been dramatic, some have been sad, some have been entertaining, but the most important thing is the lesson that is drawn out from the person who's speaking on the podcast. So for this episode, we are going to be drawing a lesson or lessons from your experience, Chikondi.
Okay.
And I guess my first question before we get into it is, what do you want people to learn from the breakup you're going to talk about today?
Wow. I personally learned a lot, but what I will share is, one of the most important things for me was that I had to make a decision to be happy.
Oh, right.
I had to make a decision to be happy. I couldn't put that responsibility on anybody else.
Yeah.
It
had to be on you.
It was my choice. It had to be on you. It has to be on everybody. So I had to make a decision to be happy.
So anybody who's listening to this episode needs to make a decision to be happy if they're unhappy with their current situation.
Yes.
And that cannot come from anybody else apart from you.
It cannot come from anybody else but you. You have to find it within yourself.
Okay. So let's get straight into it, unless you have another lesson.
Well, I do have another lesson.
Come, let's go for it.
I know this sounds like a cliche, but there's a silver lining to everything.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. There's a lesson to learn and there's a chance to grow.
That is really nice.
It's everybody's choice how they'll handle the situation. You have no control over the other person but yourself.
So I've got 2 lessons here. The first one being, decide to be happy, and it's up to you entirely to make yourself happy. Don't depend on somebody else. And the other lesson is there's a silver lining behind every cloud, behind everything, every situation.
Yes.
Great. Have you got a third lesson, or that's all?
I could go on. One last one. I actually need to put this in. The grass is not always greener on the other side.
Oh dear.
I just had to say that.
Dear. You know what? Now that gets me thinking, all right? So you decide you want to be happy, so you leave, and then the grass is not always green on the other side.
No,
oh dear.
Absolutely not.
Now I want to hear how this is all going to tie in. So tell me how your love story began with Carl.
Well, it had been, let me say, I'll start from here. 2 years from a serious relationship.
Okay.
And that was a bad breakup. And that's a story for another day. But that was also a really bad breakup. So I was I dated, but a little bit, nothing serious, you know. And finally, I had a roommate was like, oh, you're always home. You go to work. You don't do anything. You don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
You need to go out,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was like, yeah. At some point, I will.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, one day, she's like, you need to go out. You need to get out, do something. You're always in. So I'm thinking, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll go out. I had worked the night before, so I was a little tired. I'm like, yeah, let me get ready.
Mm-hmm.
It was midweek, and I'm thinking, this is midweek. Where am I going to go?
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's like, yeah, just go somewhere, do something. Of course, she had a motive. She needed time on her own.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean?
Okay. So it wasn't like you need to get out. It was like you have to get out. Give me some space.
Well, you know what? It was partly that, but that particular day.
Okay.
That particular day.
Okay. Right.
So I'm thinking, okay, fine. I'll just go out. Got ready, took a shower, and then I got really sleepy. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna pass out.
Yeah.
She comes to my room. She goes, "What? You're still here?" I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do with this girl? So I'm like, okay, forget it. First of all, I don't ever go out on my own. I'm always going out with girlfriends.
Yeah.
And it's like, most of the time, a lot of us girls won't do that on our own. Just go out.
Yeah.
At least my generation, my, you know how it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm thinking by myself, where am I going to go? At night, I'm looking at the time. I'm like, okay. It was, I think, a Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And a few years back, one of my really close friends had taken me out to a comedy club.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, yeah, maybe I should do that. Let me go, to that place. So I get ready and I'm looking at the time and I'm like, oh man, I'm late already. So anyway, I get there and I'm anxious because I'm thinking, I'm alone. Like, what am I thinking? I should just go back home, But anyway, I get there and I'm drawn by, the guy who was up front. He was killing it.
Oh, yeah?
And people were, cracking up and laughing. I'm like, you know what? I can do this. And I walked in and there was a table that was open. I'm like, great, I can sit all by myself. It'll be fine. It might look awkward, but I'll sit it out. So I sat and then listened a little and I'm thinking, looking at the time, okay, this is good. I think I've given her enough time. I can go back home. Mm-hmm. And then, the scene ended and then they started playing music and people started dancing and the DJ was, on his game. And I'm thinking, okay, I could sit here and listen. This is not bad.
Yeah.
And then I sat there for a little bit and I'm thinking, okay, this is good. I can go home. I get up to leave. And then this guy all of a sudden walks up to me and he's like, would you like to dance?
Oh.
And I heard his voice before I actually saw him. And I turned around.
Yeah.
And you know how it is in the movies where everything just slows down. And I'm like, oh my God. I turn around and I'm in my head, I'm thinking, oh no, I am not doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I look at him and I'm looking at him and it's like, okay, first of all, he looked like he was from work. He was still
in a suit and tie.
No, not a suit and tie. He did what do you call them? I don't even know what you call them, but you when you towing cars off the freeway.
Oh yeah. Okay. Recovery people. Yeah.
Recovery. Yeah. So he had one of those jagged things, and I'm thinking, oh no, you did not.
Yeah.
And then something in my brain is like, hey, he has a job.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, well, yeah, sure, So we got on the dance floor, started dancing, and this guy is fun. We're hitting it off. We're talking, while we're on the dance floor. He's cracking me up, and I'm like, what is going on?
Nice.
Yeah. So believe it or not, for the next 3 hours.
Whoa.
We're on the dance floor.
Whoa.
Cracking up, talking, laughing. So yeah, after that, everything comes down. They turn off the music. I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm leaving. And he's like, hey, don't leave yet. Can I give you my number and you can call me? I'm like, no, I don't do that.
Oh, come on. Why were you playing hard to get now?
I really wasn't playing hard to get. At that time in my life,
yeah,
you're going to be the pursuer.
Oh, right. Okay, gotcha.
If you want me, you have to,
Yeah, but I was
pursue
going to
me.
pursue you if he can't contact you.
I know. So we talked about it. I gave him my number.
No,
I
okay,
did.
okay.
I gave him my number.
Yeah.
And he wrote it on his card. I'm like, yeah, okay, call me.
Nice.
And he's like, wait, but don't leave yet. And I'm like, no, I gotta go. It's kind of late. He's like, no, I just want to talk to you for a little bit. Because now I'm thinking, you know how it is, your brain is working. You're like, okay, now, of course, he's a guy. He wants something else. And then he's like, no, let's just, can we hang out? So we moved to a different area of the building where they're still, selling some drinks. So we
Yeah.
sit down.
Yeah.
And we talked for another like 1 or 2 hours.
Jeez.
And I just hit it off with this guy, like not even funny. And I'm thinking, what is happening? You know how it is? It's like you've known this person all your life.
Yeah.
That's how it was.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
Wow.
So anyway, after that, I'm like, no, this is ridiculous. I really need to go home. It's late. I think I was working that night. He's like, so I can call you. He's like, yeah, I gave you my number, whatever. You can call me. I go home, and then I think I was working like the next 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And then he tries to call me, and I'm like, I'm not picking up.
Is this that whole pursuer philosophy you had going on?
To be honest,
yeah.
I was, already I was getting scared because I had such a connection.
Okay.
I had such a connection. So already, it was me just pulling back. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, cause you know how you feel when you have a connection with someone and you don't like how they're making you feel and you're kind of, it's like.
Especially if it's
okay.
happening as quick as it was in this case.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was happening so fast. Everything was just like I've known this person for ages, So, and then, he's calling me. I see him calling me and I'm calling my girlfriends. And I'm like, the guy I met last night is calling me. And then one of my girlfriends is like, don't pick up. Just leave that alone. Just don't, But eventually what actually got to me, because he called me, I think he called me 3 times. And then, but the last time he called me, he's like, hey, I've been trying to call you. I'm trying to see if we can meet up and, go on a date. And this is my last time calling you. And if you don't pick up next time, I'm not calling you again.
Oh, wow.
He actually left that. And funny enough, that's what actually did it. So the next time he called, I actually picked up. This guy was all out, very charismatic. I mean, he would walk, those type of people who walk in a room and grab everybody's attention.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the type of person he was. We met for a lunch dinner. It wasn't really nighttime, but it wasn't really lunch. And again, we hit it off. And he's like, I want to see you again. Can I see you again? And then I think I was working the next 2 days. He's like, okay, can I take you for breakfast when you get off? Or, can I take you to dinner just before you go to work?
Wow.
Yeah, from that time on, almost every day, I met him for a meal.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was. And in the meantime, in my head, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going too fast. I'm freaking out,
Yeah. It sounds to me like things progressed really well for some time. I mean, how long did
yes.
were you guys happy for?
I swear, I think it was only like 3 weeks after we met. She's like, hey, can I meet your brother? I'm like, whoa. Yes. And I'm like, whoa, take a chill pill. He's like, no, I just want to meet him. That's all. It doesn't hurt for me to meet him. And it's how you guys are. Like, that's the last thing you don't want to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, we don't want to meet
brother, family.
Exactly. No.
Come on. If anything, we're the ones like, hey, you want to meet my family?
Yeah. It sounds to me like he was trying to sink his roots really quick to make it difficult for you to leave if there was ever a time for you or chance for you to do that.
Very good at it. I mean, and you know what? He met my brother. My brother's like, this guy is cool. I'm like, okay. Once my brother was like, this guy is cool. Met my peeps were like, this guy is cool. I mean, right. It was, and what made it even worse
Yeah.
is because in my last relationship, that guy didn't get along with anybody
Jeez.
from my peeps. He was always burning bridges, and this guy comes in and he's like a star.
Yeah.
Everybody loves him,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like 3 months into this relationship, I posted a picture of him, and my ex saw it,
Yeah.
and went ballistic.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, and I don't understand, and I guess it's just the dynamics of the way things happened with the breakup.
Yeah.
You know how it is when things are so messy and it's everywhere? I mean, people were calling me, hey, you know what? He's causing a scene. Maybe just take it down. You don't want that much attention. You don't want all this, People are telling me all of this. And I'm like, guys, this is my life though.
Yeah.
I'm kind of moving on. You are literally giving him control by calling me and telling me to put the pictures down.
Yeah.
So he's listening to all this and he's like, why don't you just put on there that you're married? And I'm like, no.
Wow.
First of all, I don't do that in my culture. I'm not going to put it. I have parents.
Yeah.
I have family.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, then why don't we just do it?
Why don't we just get married?
Yeah. From 0 to 100.
Okay.
And guess what? Because this is a girl who's always spontaneous. And
No, you didn't.
hey, trust me.
No, you
And I was
didn't.
off the weekend. He's like, and I'm like, sure, let's do it.
Okay.
Drove ourselves to
Vegas?
Vegas
How did I know just going to Vegas?
on a Friday night.
Oh my
Got
gosh.
there just before midnight.
This is nuts.
And we're in jeans. We dressed our jeans up and wore black and just did it. No witnesses. Actually, we had a witness, one of the other chaplains. Thank God it wasn't Elvis, but it was one of those guys.
Yeah.
Signed the papers and it was done.
In your gut, were you excited about this? Or you were like, okay, we'll see how it goes.
Oh yeah, I was excited.
Wow.
But not only was I excited, I was serious about it. I was not joking. I meant every word of it.
You see, now the way you say that makes me feel as if he wasn't serious about it.
Now looking back, to be honest, in his defense, I think he was at the time.
Okay.
He meant it at the time.
So what went wrong?
The first time I ever noticed that something was wrong was because I worked odd hours. So I'd be, even if I worked only a few days a week, those odd hours, I wasn't home. And one night, it was one of those days where work was slow and they're like, hey, anybody want to go home? Hey, I'm always one of those. Yeah, I'll go.
In a rush.
So, So it was one of those days where like, you know what? I'm not going to say I'm just going to drive home. I went home and he wasn't home.
Oh.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wait a few, let's see. I'm going to wait a few. I'm not going to make a big deal out of this.
Yeah.
He didn't come home. When he didn't come home, I'm like, it's midweek.
So when you say he didn't come home, you mean he didn't come home at all? Like
no, 2-3 hours later, I'm like, come on.
Okay.
This is getting, and I'm at this point, I'm a wife, right? And you're thinking, if you're out that late, even if I'm not home.
Drop a text or something.
Yeah. And I'm the type of person who is not jealous at all. Like, I'm the type of person who's cool. You want to go to the comedy club? I'm not going to make a big deal. It's when you're keeping it from me or when you're lying about it where I think there's something wrong. I'm not the type of jealous person who's going to be like, you went to the comedy club and I wasn't home and it's at midnight. What are you doing? No, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
I don't have time for it. So he knows the type of person I am. And it was strange to me that he hadn't dropped me a text. It's 11 p.m., 11:30, you're not home. So I decided, you know what? This is strange. I'm going to just go ahead and dress up and go. Where else could it be? It must be where I met him, right? So I dress up. I go to the exact place where I met him.
Yeah.
When I get in, I didn't see anything. And I was relieved. I was like, oh my God, okay, he's not here. But I'm like, no, let me just wait. So I waited at the booth, and lo and behold, I see him. And then he's actually on the dance floor dancing. And I'm like, okay.
On his own?
He was dancing with someone,
Okay.
but it wasn't anything. It was just like dancing,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I sent him a text and I'm like, hey, where are you?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, oh, yeah, nothing. I'm home. I'm like, okay.
Really?
That place has no cell signal. For whatever reason, I was able to text him
Yeah.
and he was able to get the text
Yeah.
and respond. That place has no cell. And the funny thing is that I actually went and stood right next to the DJ and was talking to the DJ, and I could see him and he did not see me because in his head, he didn't expect
Of course,
that I would be there.
And he wasn't
right?
expecting you, no.
Yeah. So I sent him a text and said, hey, anyway, they let me off work early. I'm coming home.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him leave. Yeah, I gave him a few moments, On my way home, I stopped by a restaurant, ate.
Just to allow him to get home.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So he gets home. Actually, by the time I got home, he was actually in bed and passed out already. That's how long I took. So I woke him up. I'm like,
okay.
So where were you? Oh, yeah, I've been home. So I hand him, because what I did is I got the business card to the DJ.
Mm.
So I handed him the business card, and he's like, what's this? And I'm like, oh, that was the DJ that was playing at this place last night.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole demeanor just changed. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, I was there. And he did not know what to say to me. And that was the only discussion we had about that. Period.
Damn.
We never talked about it again.
When an issue is not discussed and yet somebody knows something, just makes it that much more difficult to get over and resolve.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wanted to confess at some point and say something, but he also didn't know whether he'll be selling himself out or not.
And he didn't know how much. He didn't know how much I saw too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking he didn't know just how much I saw, but I didn't stay long enough to see if there was anything more.
Yeah.
I didn't. Part of me didn't want to know.
Yeah.
And then it happened again, but this time I did.
So happened again, as in you were let off work early, came home and he wasn't there again.
He wasn't there again.
And was he at the same spot?
Same spot.
Same chick?
Like a different chick.
Right.
But this time it was even worse because he was dancing on the floor with her, grinding, and I'm watching this. So this time I'm like, okay. There was that thing where I'm like, I'm going to go on stage 2 and bag my stuff up on someone else.
Yeah.
Like, let me go dancing with somebody else on the floor too. Let me do the same thing. I'm like, no, I'm not going to reduce myself to that.
Yeah.
So I just walked over to him and I'm like, hi, honey. He turned around. He his eyes where he's like.
They literally popped out.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, really? So I turned around and started walking off. And he's trying to talk to me. And honestly, right now, I don't even know what he was saying to me. But at the time, I was so
fuming.
pissed.
Yeah.
I was fuming. And then I took off my ring and threw it across the floor.
Whoa.
I was so pissed. Yeah. And then when he saw that, he's like, oh, shoot. And he just kind of, we went home. I was upset. He tried to talk to me. I'm just like, no. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember the discussion we had, honestly.
Yeah.
The year is not even over. I don't think we've been married a year.
It's only been a couple of months and he's already exhibiting signs of disinterest and wanting to have someone else.
Yeah.
So one of the lessons that you mentioned right at the beginning was that you need to decide to be happy.
Right.
So what is it that then got you so unhappy you decided, nah, I need to go?
His attitude kind of changed because at the beginning I was everything. Mm-hmm. You know what? I was everything.
Yeah.
How much can I say on here?
well, you know what? Say as much as you feel you need to.
Okay. There's a point he actually stopped having sex with me.
As in completely, or?
Yeah, it felt like there's a point it just stopped. And the worst part is, of course, I'll try and talk to him about what's going on. And he would bring up all these issues about no, it's just stuff I'm going through. This is what I'm going through. And it wasn't anything new that he was going through.
Yeah.
It was stuff that I knew about from the beginning of our relationship.
Yeah, and that had
And I'm
never
like,
been
I
a problem.
understand that. Yes.
Yeah.
They were a problem, but they never affected this part of your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That always been there. So what you're saying is not making sense. I mean, it's clear to me. I know he was cheating, and I don't know how many there were. I know, to me, I think there were a lot. There were multiple. But in that moment where I was so desperate to fix it. I was so desperate to look away, just not see it, because I just wanted it to work. And I was willing to work it through with him, no matter what. I didn't even have to know.
Did you ever come across something that would have confirmed that he was cheating?
No, because I didn't want to know. And that's one thing about me. I'm not going to go through your phone. I don't have time for that. I'm not going to follow you. I don't have time for that. For me, a lot of the times, of course, outside of crazy, a lot of us women know. And you men know too when your person is stepping out. When somebody's cheating.
I mean, your sixth sense is never wrong.
Yeah. And I knew it. And he would never admit it to me, but I knew it. And I just didn't want to know it. I just wanted it to work.
So how did you feel when he stopped having sex with you?
Oh, that was horrible. Because
of the two of you, who would be the one who would initiate it most of the time? Would it be
we
him?
both did.
Oh, you both did. Okay.
We both did. Of course, him more than me, but I didn't have to have the time.
So when you started initiating it and then he wasn't responsive, that's when you felt,
Well, he wouldn't even be around me long enough. Half the time when he would come home, sometimes I'd hear him, and then he'll be maybe like downstairs for 4 hours, and I'm thinking...
4 hours?
4 hours, and I'm thinking, he hasn't even come up to say hi to me that he's home.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And then I'll pass out. And then sometimes, I'll be too proud. I'm like, come on, And being a woman, being rejected is bad when you're a guy.
Yeah.
When you're a woman, you expect it.
Absolutely.
So I feel like it's even worse for us.
Hence me asking the question how you felt when the sex, was taken away and wasn't on the table anymore.
It was horrible. I don't even know how to explain it. Yeah. Especially as a woman, you lose, I don't even know how to describe it, because you're like, what is wrong with me? Yeah. You start looking at yourself.
Yeah.
And then, of course, because I was trying to fix myself, I was fixing my outward appearance. I was doing all of this to make up for the shortfall that I felt. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was doing all this stuff. And now looking back, I was literally losing my mind.
And now it makes sense when you said that you became so unhappy.
Now it's like I'm totally someone else. And unfortunately, that whole time, I couldn't talk to anybody because I had just been through that messy relationship. Oh. So I had separated myself from a lot of people, and I did not want to talk to my friends or anybody about this because I didn't want to go back and loop around, you know? Even if my friends thought he was a great guy, they were like, slow down. This is happening too fast.
Yeah.
Don't do it, And then because of that, I'm like, how am I even going to try and talk to anybody? Who am I talking to?
Because they're going to say we told you.
Yeah. But not only that, it was just hard. What do I say? How do I start? I've been through this before. And they told me, you've already been through enough. You don't need this again. Just breathe, So here I was. And then, unfortunately, the mindset that I was in, I started talking to somebody.
Oh, okay.
This is a person I had known. And it was one of those things where, they never went away.
Yeah.
They would always be, hey, hi, how are you? And for the most part, I ignored it. I never responded. I didn't have time for it because no matter what was going on at that time, I was so in love with my husband. I had no time for this person. That's how I was. I was so and even if I had someone physically hitting on me, I didn't have time for that.
Because you were so into your husband.
I was so in love with my husband. I just had no time for anybody else. But then, of course, I'm thinking this person is not there in New York, and I'm over in Hawaii.
Bloody
They're not
hell.
really a threat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not a threat.
Mm.
So I started talking to them out of, loneliness to get away from where I'm at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And just talking, and then before I knew it, I'm telling this person what's going on with me,
Okay.
and then kind of got lost in translation. I stopped caring what my husband was doing, what time he came home. I just stopped.
Yeah.
I literally gave up. Because you know how you feel like when you're hitting a brick wall, no
Yeah.
matter what you do,
Yeah.
and no matter what I did, it's like I could not get his attention. I couldn't get his attention. I couldn't get him to see something was wrong. I couldn't get him to talk to me. And I thought if he just talked to me, we could work it out.
Yeah.
And I kept hitting this brick wall time after time after time. But this person was always there, no matter what.
Yeah. So what then eventually made you decide to leave completely? Like, right, that's it, I'm out of here. Is it because you knew you had the comfort of somebody else who you could be with?
That, yes. And then I got into a depression. I actually got depressed. And I'm looking at my life, I'm like, this is not the way to live.
Yeah.
Yes, and I still love him. Like, I love him with all my heart, but this is not how to live. I've actually tried to talk to him. It got so bad, and I actually feel pathetic saying this, but I would actually literally text him, baby, please come home. I just want to spend time with you.
Wow.
This guy would write to me, and I would send him a text. And I'm like, can you come home, please? I just want to spend time with you.
Yeah.
Or I'm going through something. Can you come home?
And he wouldn't come home.
Oh, no, he wouldn't come home. This is happening all the while. We get to 5 years.
That is
We get
something.
to 5 years. I send him a text and I'm like, look, this is not working. I don't think I can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've tried. You're not talking to me.
Yeah.
You're always gone. What do you mean I'm always gone? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're always gone. And
Yeah.
I'm here by myself.
Yeah.
Almost 24/7. So then he comes home. I think he spends an hour or two. And then he's gone again. He doesn't come back until I don't know what time.
Did this guy have another family or something?
No, I think he was just busy.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then my birthday comes along. And then he kind of gets better, but not really. He's still doing these disappearing acts. And then he's like, every now and then he'll put a Band-Aid on and tells me he loves me, And then on my birthday, he's like, hey, happy birthday. And then he goes away and disappears like for 5 hours. He's gone. And then comes back with a cake, he sings for me or whatever it is. And I'm thinking, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
What am I doing here? I'm like, this is year 6. I'm on medication now.
Yeah. That's crazy.
For depression. And I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
And that was it. I'm like, I can't do this.
That's when you decided to leave. You're like, nah.
I was done. I went in, filed paperwork. And I think he never thought I would do it because I've never been the type of person to cause a scene.
Yeah.
I never cause a scene. I don't yell.
Yeah.
I just don't have time for that. Like, what's the point of yelling? Where is it going to get you? I don't throw tantrums. I really don't have time for that.
Yeah.
So he never expected it. I went to court one day and I'll never forget it. I passed through a car dealership, bought a car, drove home.
Wow.
He's standing outside, he's looking, he doesn't know this car. And I'm like, who is this? He's looking, who is this? He sees me coming out of the car and I hand him the paperwork.
Wow.
And he could not believe it. 2 days later, I packed up and packed everything up, pretty much what I needed, and moved to a whole different area.
Whoa.
And that was it.
Whoa. Did he try stop you? Did he try and
No, he didn't try and stop me. And the funny part is that even up to that moment, even if he had tried to stop me,
Yeah.
I would have stayed. That's how in love I was with him. As crazy as that sounds.
You know, for it to get to this point where he knows that this is final and this woman is not coming back and not make an effort to get you back. He had checked out a while ago.
Yeah, he had checked out. But it taught me that I couldn't put the responsibility on being happy on somebody else. That had to come from me.
And the last one you had was that the grass is not always greener. What happened? What dodgy
Lord.
patch did you land yourself into after all?
Well, of course, I was wrapped up in it. By the time all this was going on and I filed for divorce, I was full blown into this other one.
Yeah.
Eventually, that ended. But the weird part is that when that relationship ended, I did not mourn. I actually mourned the end of my marriage, not the end of that relationship.
Really?
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. When I got to the point where I'm like, we're breaking up. I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
I wasn't sad that this relationship ended. I actually mourned the end of my marriage. That's when I was mourning.
Is it because that this relationship with this other guy was a rebound?
I guess it was.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only explanation. I was totally out of it. And that's what was carrying me through.
Yeah.
It was, I guess I was coping. So I wasn't dealing with it because I was so busy.
Yeah.
I was so busy with this other person. I wasn't dealing with everything that happened in my marriage, the divorce. I wasn't dealing with all that. So when it finally ended, that's when I actually dealt with the end of my marriage.
You sound like you're in a much better space now.
Way better space.
If you're, just as I'm wrapping this up, if your ex-husband was to knock on the door and said, look, I'm ready to talk now, would you give him the time of day?
No. There's a time he came back because there's a time I was like, I can't believe you just let me go. You literally let me walk out the door.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you were leaving. And I'm like, you know what? I've broken up with people before and they've asked me. I even had someone beg me. You didn't even ask me to stay.
You just let me go.
And you just let me go. And he's like, yeah, well, why should I? Why should I beg?
Oh my gosh.
But guess what? Like, I think it was 6 months after, he literally came back and was begging me. He's like, please, could you take me back? But at the time, I didn't think anything had changed. I felt like if I went back, we'd be back in the exact same place where we were.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything had changed. I think he missed what I came with more than anything. He missed not having anybody bug him, not having anybody nag him, you know? Just somebody who's laid back and who you can walk all over.
That's exactly what he missed.
That's what I feel like that's what he missed more than me as a person, that, you know, he missed his wife and he wanted his wife back. He wanted the life. He wanted the relationship.
What a shame. What an
that's how I
shame.
felt. So he actually came back more than once to try. He came and followed me where I was and asked me more than once to come back. And I just couldn't do it. And even if at the time I was still so in love with him, I couldn't do it. I'm like, I know it took me 6 years to get here. And I don't feel like he's in that place.
And you didn't want to have another 6 years of wasted time either.
Exactly. I didn't want to go back to where I was. I didn't want to, I wasn't going to do it.
That's really intense. Well, for those who've been listening to this particular episode of the Feeling Station, 3 important lessons came out. The first one being you need to decide to be happy out of your own energy and out of your own juice. Do not depend on somebody else to give you that happiness, because if they're not in the same space that you are, they're incapable of making you feel happy. And secondly, there's a silver lining behind every cloud. Every situation that you might feel is gloomy is only opening the door for something else to make you happy. And the last one, if you do decide to have a rebound, somewhere along the lines, the grass is definitely not greener on the other side.
For sure.
You've been listening to another lockdown episode of The Feeling Station. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Remember, stay home and be safe. Peace.
Tell me what you're feeling.
Satis on Daro Raini and Chagezai.
Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over.
Satis on Daro Raini and Chagezai.
Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.
Kujidziro amai. Love is a fire.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.